Close your eyes and imagine a place where the air itself feels heavy with the weight of 3 centuries of guilt. Imagine a town where the cobblestones whisper the names of the innocent, and the soil is forever stained with the shadows of the noose. You think you know the story of Salem. You've heard of the trials, the hysteria, and the witches burned at the stake. Except they weren't burned. They were hanged. But what happened after the gallows were dismantled? What happens to a soul when it is ripped from this world by a neighbor's lie? Tonight, we aren't just talking about history. We are talking about the energy that refuses to dissipate. For those who live in Salem, Massachusetts, the 1692 trials never truly ended. They just moved into the walls, into the basements, and into the very ground beneath their feet. Welcome to the darkest corners of the Witch City. These are 3 stories that prove that in Salem, the past doesn't just haunt you, it waits for you. Our first journey takes us to Howard Street Cemetery, a place that feels several degrees colder than the rest of the town. This is the site of one of the most brutal executions in American history. Not a hanging, not a drowning, but a pressing. In 1692, an 80-year-old man named Giles Corey was accused of witchcraft. He knew the system was rigged. If he pleaded guilty, he would be executed. If he pleaded innocent, he would still be executed, and his land would be stripped from his family. So Giles Corey did something extraordinary. He remained silent. To force a plea, the authorities laid him on the ground, placed a wooden board over his chest, and began stacking heavy stones, one by one. For 2 days, Giles Corey endured the agony of his rib cage slowly collapsing. Every time they asked for a plea, his only response was, "More weight." Before his final breath, it is said he spat out a terrifying curse upon the sheriff and the entire town of Salem. To this day, the ghost of Giles Corey is not just a legend, he is a harbinger of doom. Local tradition says that whenever a great tragedy is about to strike Salem, a tall, gaunt figure is seen walking through Howard Street Cemetery. He was seen days before the Great Fire of 1914 leveled the city. He was seen before the mysterious deaths of several town officials. Witnesses describe a man with a face contorted in pain, his chest seemingly caved in, appearing in the mist. But the most chilling part? It's the sound. The sound of grinding stones and a faint, raspy voice whispering, "More weight." If you visit Howard Street at twilight, look toward the back of the graveyard. If you see a man who seems to be struggling to breathe, don't approach him. Because in Salem, seeing Giles Corey means something terrible is coming for the rest of us. If you walk down Washington Street, you'll see a beautiful Federal-style brick building. It looks prestigious. It looks safe. This is the Joshua Ward House. But this house was built on the foundation of a nightmare. Before the house stood there, the site belonged to George Corwin, the High Sheriff of Essex County during the trials. History knows him by another name, the Strangler. Corwin was a man who enjoyed his work. In the basement of his home, he practiced interrogations that would make a modern man's blood run cold. For years, he tied his victims' necks to their heels until the blood seeped from their noses. Corwin died of a heart attack at 30, and his family was so afraid his body would be desecrated by the vengeful townspeople that they buried him in the basement of the house. He stayed there for years. In the 1980s, a real estate company moved in. One day, an employee was taking a series of Polaroid photos of the interior. When the film developed, she dropped the camera in horror. In one of the photos, standing in the middle of a hallway, was a woman, but not a living woman. She had wild, tangled black hair that reached her waist. Her skin was a sickly, translucent gray. Her eyes were nothing but hollow black pits. This photo, which is still analyzed by experts today, became known as the Black Lady of Salem. She is believed to be one of Corwin's victims, trapped in the place where she was tortured. People who work in the building today refuse to go into the basement. They report the feeling of invisible hands tightening around their throats. They find heavy furniture moved across doors overnight. But the most frequent report? It's the smell. The sudden, overwhelming scent of rotting meat and wet earth, as if someone or something has just been exhumed from beneath the floorboards. George Corwin may be gone, but his interrogations seem to continue in the silence of the Joshua Ward House. The Strangler. Our final story takes us to the old burying point on Charter Street, the oldest cemetery in Salem. This is where the judges of the trials are buried, including the infamous John Hathorne, the only judge who never expressed remorse for the deaths he caused. But the most active spirit here isn't a judge. It's a woman who died of a broken heart and a broken neck. In the late 17th century, stories emerged of a lady in white. She is often seen floating between the crooked slate headstones, her white dress glowing with an ethereal, bluish light. Unlike the aggressive spirits of Corey or Corwin, the lady in white is a figure of pure sorrow. Many believe she is Sarah Good, one of the first 3 women accused. Sarah was a beggar, a woman who had nothing. On the gallows, when the minister told her to confess, she screamed, "I am no more a witch than you are a wizard, and if you take my life, God will give you blood to drink." Visitors to the Charter Street Cemetery often capture orbs on their phones. But some get more than they bargained for. There are hundreds of accounts of people feeling a sudden, icy hand grab their wrist. When they look down, there's nothing there. But later, they find bruises in the shape of small, thin fingers. One famous account tells of a photographer who was taking pictures of Judge Hathorne's grave. Suddenly, his high-tech camera battery drained to 0. In the bitter cold, he heard a woman's sob right behind his ear. He turned, and for a split second, he saw her. A woman in white, her neck bent at an unnatural angle, her eyes weeping blood. She wasn't looking at him. She was staring at the judge's grave. It's a haunting reminder that in Salem, the victims are still keeping watch over their executioners. Waiting for a justice that the living world could never provide.